Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1256B and today's date is April 17th, 2017 and the title of the episode is Deep State is Ready to Initiate Operation Cyber Event to Push Their Agenda. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. Yesterday, Sunday, I placed an interview on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. The interview is with Steve St. Angelo from SRS Rocco Report. All you have to do is go to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, it'll bring you right to the video. Or you can come over to the X22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there. You can play it right on the site. Or you can go to newssentinel.com, same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there, and you can play it right on the site. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we understand that India, they were pushing the idea of demonetization. They've been pushing that drive, and that was about 5 months ago. That has passed right now. And the people of India, well, they continue to face shortages of cash in banks and ATM machines. The Times of India reports that more than 90% of ATMs in the northern region do not have cash. And in the southern states, as many as 65% of ATMs have run dry. Now, the government's intention is to encourage smart payment system, but in India, the infrastructure, well, it is not up to the mark to do this. And banking officials right now saying that they're going to slash the number of free ATM withdrawals or hike the charges levied to discourage people from using cash. And we can see this whole entire test case is to see how people do without cash, how they operate using electronic funds. Because what is going to happen, not just here in the United States, but around the world, is that it's going to be very difficult to get cash out. When the collapse of the system comes, or when they put forth the idea that there'll be no more cash, because we know that the IMF already came out with a working paper showing how to basically get rid of the cash and go directly to electronic. We can see right now that they're running these test cases to see how people react, how people handle the situation, because we can see that this is coming. And this is what the bail-ins are all about. This is what the collapse is all about. Basically, they want to go to a full-on electronic system. Not Bitcoin. I'm talking about central bank controlled. It will be electronic. You'll never be able to get your funds out of the bank. They'll keep it in the bank. If you do something wrong, they can put a hold on it. They can make sure that you don't have the funds. They can control your life. Today, you still can take out cash, and you can take cash and hold on to it and use it to pay for certain things. Once cash is gone, well, guess what? You're under their control, and this is what they're working towards. Now, we know that Trump, he wanted to build a wall between the United States and Mexico, and I believe the wall has been started. But we really don't need a wall. If we just follow the law and just add more Border Patrol agents, have more surveillance, we don't actually need a physical war, because already we're seeing, and this is coming from the Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly, he's already saying that the number of illegal immigrants that are crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, well, it has declined dramatically by almost 70%. It's amazing when you follow the law and you make sure that people aren't coming into the country and you're not putting them onto buses, sending them off to sanctuary cities, that you can stop the flow of illegal immigrants coming into this country. It's amazing. And you don't need the wall. We don't need to waste the money on the wall. And that's all we have to do. We need to follow up and just to go ahead and follow the law. And that is send people back when they come into the country illegally. Remember, there's a difference between immigrant and illegal immigrant. An immigrant, which the country loves to accept, comes in, goes through the process, and enters the country. An illegal immigrant, well, it looks for this individual who's either running from the law, wants to escape the country, or from any other reason. They try to get into this country by hopping over the border, maybe in the cover of night, maybe during the day, someplace where nobody can see them, and they come into this country illegally. And President Obama at the time, former President Obama, said, hey, this is fine. Come on in. If you made it across the border, it's okay. We're not going to check you out. We're not going to do any vetting. Actually, we're going to give you money. We're going to put you on a bus. We're going to give you working papers. We're going to do everything for you. And again, this is why we have the problem. Now, again, this was part of a bigger agenda here. This was to bring more and more illegals in, probably for voting purposes, for Obamacare, to keep the economy going, because you need more and more people to take on the debt. You need more and more people taking on the low-paying jobs. And this is why they continually brought these individuals in. There's many agendas associated with all this. Now, we know when Trump entered the White House, there was leak after leak after leak. And he was trying to find who these leakers are. He found a couple. And he always had the idea that it might be the intelligence community. And it turns out that a top Democrat, well, he just exposed who really is behind the Trump leak. Kucinich revealed that the real source of all the anti-Trump leaks is the corrupt American intelligence community. He said, what's going on in the intelligence community with this president is unprecedented. They're making every effort to append him. And he said these people behind the leaks, well, and the wiretaps, they must be held accountable for treason. But he said the White House is under attack from elements inside the intelligence community, which are trying to elevate tensions between Russia and the United States. Let's throw in North Korea. Let's throw in Syria. And at the bottom of that is money. Is an agenda for somebody to cash in on the conflict between U.S. and Russia. And we know that the intelligence community, the CIA, the deep state, the central bank, they have their own agendas. And what they were trying to do all this time is basically either get rid of Trump if he didn't follow along, or assassinate him. And we can see that Trump, from this point, it looks like he is now playing their game. And he's learning how to play the game. And we can see right now that what he has accomplished at this point, if we look at it from the game point of view, is he brought everyone to his side. The corporate media, the deep state. It looks like he's playing with them. Now, maybe the deep state has control of them. Many people are saying this. Many people are saying that he's completely taken over. They fooled him. He's going along with whatever they say. But there are certain signs, like he just played this trick on Yellen to switch the blame over back to the central bank off of him. He's also fired 59 missiles into a Syrian airbase that did really no damage whatsoever, and allowed Putin to say that the CIA is planning further chemical attacks, which kind of stopped the chemical attacks right there and then. And it looks like this incredible chess game going on right now. And we can see going forward, we're going to have to watch for more indicators. We see out in France, Facebook has shut down pro-Marine Le Pen posts, and they're calling it fake news. Now, the elections are going to be held on April 23rd. And Facebook is now shutting down anyone that is pro-Le Pen, because we did a fact check and they're just all fake. So we could see that this is completely set up. The deep state, those who want Le Pen not to win, they're making sure that she doesn't win. Now, is this going to be a sure thing? We don't know. They've tried before. That's why Germany was also out there, because their elections are also coming up, where they're calling out fake news. They want Facebook to shut down anything that's hate speech, anything that is fake. They're fined if they don't shut it down. So we can see that Facebook is going along with all of this. And they are basically targeting the other candidates, because those who are in power want to stay in power. And that's why they're using this type of method to stop everyone else from being elected. Now, when Trump was elected, it didn't work. Is it going to work in Germany? Is it going to work in France? Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see if the people understand and realize what is fake and what is real. Because we can see there's a huge movement right now in all of these countries, and this is what they're really afraid of. They're afraid of this movement, and they're trying to stop it. This is what these individuals do. They don't want anyone coming into power that they cannot control. And this is how they try to control everything. Well, over the weekend, it looked like North Korea was threatening to launch a missile, and they tried to launch a missile later during the weekend here, and it didn't go as planned. It blew up, and what they're saying is that the U.S. might have sabotaged Kim Jong-un's missile test yesterday through a cyber attack, causing the rocket to spectacularly flop. And this is coming from a former British Foreign Secretary. And we can see right now that they are pushing the propaganda out there because, once again, we know what the deep state is up to. We know what they're trying to do. We know they want to convince everyone that North Korea is going to fire a missile or launch a nuclear weapon and hit the United States, South Korea, Japan, or anybody else. And the United States, well, we need to go in there and stop this country from doing this. And we see right now, they keep saying, and this is coming from the corporate media, the propaganda coming from the White House, where they're saying that if Kim Jong-un fires another missile, well, we're going in there and we're going to remove Kim Jong-un. Now, we know there's a covert operation where they're training to go in and remove the leader of North Korea. Trump has sat down with Xi Jinping from China to work out some type of deal to help out in the situation with North Korea. And we can see that the North Koreans, well, they're saying, listen, we will test our missiles whenever we want. You can't tell us what to do. The ambassador to North Korea, Ambassador Kim, he is saying that the U.S. is pushing the Korean Peninsula to the brink of war, nuclear war. Is this really what they want? And I find all of this information coming out is a lot of propaganda and noise. And a lot of it is coming from anonymous sources or officials that cannot be named. And following Sunday's failed medium-range missile test by Kim Jong-un, Trump has been evaluating his response options, and according to Bloomberg, which cited a person familiar with his thinking. I mean, what is that? A person familiar with his thinking. You know what? Let's just name these government officials. Don't they work for us? Shouldn't we know who's talking and who's saying these things? If they're going to say it, give us your name. And it cited a person familiar with his thinking is willing to consider ordering a kinetic military action, including a sudden strike into North Korea. I mean, think about what's happening right here. They're using so much propaganda to make us believe that North Korea is going to attack the United States, when we know North Korea is not going to do that. If North Korea attacked the United States with a nuclear weapon, or attacked South Korea, or attacked Japan, the entire country would be obliterated in 2 seconds. They know this, and they're not going to do it. So Trump is working with Xi Jinping of China to deal with North Korea. And again, everyone's saying he's flip-flopping, where he says, okay, China is not a currency manipulator. Well, we know who manipulates the currency. It's the central banks. It's the Fed. And we're going to be working with China. Now, what we can see right now is that everything that he's saying goes along with what the deep state wants. They wanted China to do something. McCain was out there. The neocons were out there, continually pushing China. And then you have to think, why do they want China to deal with North Korea? Is it really because of their nuclear weapons that don't even work? I know they're out there telling us that they have all these nuclear weapons and they've been testing them for a long time. But if you go back in time, they've been working on nuclear weapons for a very long time. Actually, if you go back to 2001 and 2002, you can see that, whoa, North Korea is a nuclear threat. They almost have a nuclear weapon. Well, they still don't have anything. We're not even sure the tests that they did underground were nuclear tests because no one has picked up any radiation. Yes, there was a tremor, but that could be an earthquake. Japan was testing for radiation. They couldn't find anything. We're just taking the word of the corporate media and the government once again. Now, we know the USS Carl Vinson, they are going towards the Korean Peninsula. I think it's going to be there on the 25th of April. We can see that they decided to have a drill at the same time. So now they're bringing in, and I'm talking about the United States government, they decided to bring in the Nimitz, which is a carrier group, and they also decided to bring in the Ronald Reagan into the same area to undergo drills in South Korea. And it's a very strange time to start doing this. Now, when we look at this, we have to say to ourselves, why have they been trying to get into North Korea for such a long time? Is it oil? Do they want a pipeline? Or is it something completely different? Well, looking back in time and looking at all the information that's out there, North Korea, because of sanctions and everything else, they started dealing in drugs, opium, and they have a very large drug trafficking going across the Chinese border. Who else deals in narcotics? Oh, right, the CIA. They have a huge poppy field in Afghanistan where they produce opium, and they sell it across the globe. They also have it in the Philippines where Duterte is out there, and he's putting an end to that. That's why they don't like him out there. And we can see throughout Asia, the CIA, they want control of the flow of drugs. North Korea looks like their competition. So they need to remove North Korea. And we can see right now, this most likely is what is the problem out there. This is why they continually said they're building nuclear weapons. We need to go into North Korea. We need to do it before they get to that point. But now things have changed a little bit, because now basically what is happening is the economy is falling apart. They changed and they morphed the story. They want a war. I mean, if they can get into North Korea and can control North Korea and take control of the drug trade, they will do this. But most of the drugs cross from North Korea into China. Most likely, this is why China, and of course China also purchases coal and things like that, they want China to control the situation with North Korea. And what they can do is they can stop the drugs from coming in. And this would hurt North Korea, because North Korea, since they're selling the drugs, the opium, the heroin, they're getting cash. And they take that cash and they're able to use it. So we can see there's a lot to this story. It's not just, oh, they're creating nuclear weapons and we have to stop them. That's really not the threat. The threat is competition. Remember, the war on drugs is not really a war on drugs. It's a war on the competition to the CIA, because they want to have the drug running. They want to be in control. And it looks like what they're doing at this point is they're trying to build the propaganda, and they're hoping that Trump is going to go in, remove the leader, so they can take control of North Korea, and they can take control of the drug trafficking. Now, is Trump going to go along with this? Is he really going to invade North Korea when they've never attacked the United States? Well, they wanted him to go into Syria with 150,000 troops. He's not doing that. Will he do that with North Korea? Well, let's see what he does next. Now, out in Turkey, we can see the Turkish government claim victory in a national referendum, reforming the constitution so Erdogan can now become the dictator of Turkey. He can make all the decisions. He does not have to check with anyone. This is what he wanted all along. Now, the EU leaders are saying, well, we need to check this out because we're seeing that this might have been manipulated. We need to wait for a report from the independent OECD on alleged voting irregularities, especially after Turkey's opposition party shouted foul play and fraud. And we'll have to see what the outcome of that is once that's all said and done. And most likely, Erdogan will be a full dictator at that point. We see the Syrian Air Force, well, they destroyed the largest Islamic State headquarters in Raqqa, and they hit that area and completely destroyed it. We see the Syrian bus bombing was conducted by terrorists, not the Syrian government, so no red lines were crossed, even though the corporate media is saying that, ooh, it's the Syrian government once again. But if you really think about it, why would Assad once again set up an agreement with 4 cities between the Syrian government and the Western-backed terrorist forces to evacuate civilians to Syrian government territories, or terrorist supporters to terrorist-held territory. It would make no sense whatsoever. The plan was devised to minimize civilian casualties and to eliminate the necessity to reclaim territory isolated by opposing forces, a plan that was facilitated by Iran and Qatar. Around 126 people were killed in the attacks, including at least 80 children. Now, interestingly enough, many mainstream media outlets are attempting to blame the bombing on the Syrian government, despite the fact that the attack was a suicide bombing, a hallmark of the Western-backed opposition. In addition, it is yet to be explained why the Syrian government would bomb its own loyalists, which it negotiated to have evacuated, or why the Syrian government would benefit from doing so. They wouldn't. Journalist Vanessa Beeley, reported from Inside Syria, stated the terrorist responsible for the bombing was al-Sham, an organization considered moderate by the United States. So once again, it is the terrorists. Russia right now is demanding an explanation from the UK, because the UK is saying that, listen, we went in there, we took some samples, and yes, it's sarin gas. And they're saying, how did this possibly happen? The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, well, that team that you sent in, it was all UK nationals. So this makes no sense. It wasn't diverse enough. And where did you get the samples? And why wasn't anyone told about this? So right now, Russia is looking at that situation saying, we'd like to see the evidence. We'd like to show us where you got all of this. And most likely it's from Turkey. Now, the Syrian government, they're saying, listen, we're going to invite experts in to investigate the chemical attacks. They can come right to the site, they can check it all out, and we want the organization that is coming in to do an impartial investigation into what happened here. And we're inviting the teams in here. Now, the United States government central bankers, they don't want this to happen because they understand if there's an investigation, they're going to find out the truth. So they're going to stop this any way they possibly can. This most likely will never happen. Now, Duterte from the Philippines, he is out there and he is supporting the president, calling him a pragmatic thinker and pointing out that Donald Trump simply would not have become a billionaire if he was stupid. He's saying that he understands what is going on and who all the players are. Remember when Duterte was calling out Obama, calling him names, going after all the drug dealers and drug traffickers in his country? He knew what was going on in his country. He knew that the CIA, the deep state, was using his country for drug trafficking, and he was cleaning it up. And we know that the United States, the deep state, the CIA, the intelligence agencies, well, they didn't like this because this is how they make their money. Roger Stone is out there, and he's a political insider who at the point was head of Trump's campaign, says that the president's recent decisions prove he is a man of action who is very much uprooting the strategy, tactics, and geopolitical machinations of the old guard. And I think what he's saying here is Trump is now playing their game. He is doing what he needs to do to get through all of this because he understands he couldn't do it the other way. He has to play the game. Now, the deep state, the intelligence agencies, they are going to make sure they get their way one way or another. And when they feel that things are not going in their best interest, especially with North Korea, because they're already pissed off that Trump didn't bring in 150,000 troops into Syria, because they thought that was a done deal. When the United States, if we do not invade, I'm talking about the deep state, the neocons, if they can't get to go into North Korea, the intelligence agencies go into North Korea, they are going to be very angry. And they're going to have to prove that North Korea is coming after the United States. This is why we're starting to hear all these different warnings, because they're getting ready to set it up. And we talked about this in other reports a long time ago. And even Janet Napolitano, who was head of DHS, said not if, but when there is a cyber attack. And she said this quite a while ago. Right now, the Pentagon, they've warned, and this is coming from an anonymous source, of course, that the entire country could be plunged into darkness following an imminent EMP attack by North Korea. And this was followed up by former CIA Director James Woosley, saying that North Korea are capable of launching an EMP attack on America that would take out the entire power grid and end up killing millions of Americans. We also, from DHS Chief John Kelly, said that North Korea more likely to present a cyber threat than a kinetic one. He said, in the case of North Korea, a kinetic threat against the United States right now, I don't think is likely, but certainly a cyber threat is. So what are they broadcasting right now? They're telling us, listen, if we cannot get our way, we know that North Korea most likely has no capability of launching any type of missile into the United States. And it might be quite hard to prove that it came from North Korea. But a cyber threat is something different. Even an EMP type of threat, but I think it's going to be a cyber threat, where they can say, yes, we tracked it down. And really, with a cyber threat, you can just make stuff up. We know from Vault 7, they can imitate any type of malware or anything like that by leaving breadcrumbs within the compiled code. And we can see right now, just from these individuals, they are telling us that this most likely will be the outcome. Actually, we have Ted Koppel out there saying that a cyber threat from Syria and North Korea is a possibility. So we could see right now that this is what they're trying to do. This is what they're moving towards. If they don't get their way, most likely they're going to hit the banking system. They're going to hit the power grid. They're going to hit whatever they have to and blame it on North Korea, on Syria, to try to get us into war. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.